Wednesday, March 24th, 2021 meeting of the Diversion Authority Land Management Committee. And Don, would you do a roll, please, so we know who's here?
Mrs. Shirlene.
I am here.
Mayor Peterson. Mr. Grubb.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Borboom.
Here.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Here.
Mr. Olson.
Here.
Mr. Breitling. Ms. Majo.
Here.
Mrs. Preston.
Here.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us today. You have before you the agenda. Are there any changes or adjustments to the agenda? Or a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented. This is Jenny Mojo.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Roger, second.
Thank you. All opposed say aye. And motion carries. On to item number 3, minutes from the previous meeting of February 24th, 2021. Are there any additions or corrections or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Roger.
Thank you, Roger. Is there a second?
I'll second. That's Bob.
Thank you, Bob. This is not the most controversial point on our agenda, so happy that you spoke up. All those opposed say aye. And motion carries. Item number 4, property acquisition status report. Take it away, Eric.
Hi, Commissioner Shirlene and board members. Good afternoon. In your packet is the usual acquisition status report. I think you're probably all fairly familiar with this. I would like to just point out a few things as I usually do. Page 5 of your packet shows the overall summary map, and just a few things to point out there. You can see I always like to point out the number of acquired parcels. We are at 550 acquired parcels. That includes parcels that we've acquired in fee title, permanent easements, temporary construction easements, other features like that. We're done dealing with that parcel. There are a number of parcels that are in an eminent domain situation, and we're processing through those. I know Chris McShane and his team are starting to get a few discovery requests, and we're processing through those using the normal steps. You can see we've got a couple purchase agreements where we've got deals approved, just waiting for the closing to take place. We're continuing to negotiate on quite a few properties, primarily for the Red River control structure and for the Drain 27 wetland project, along with a scattering of other parcels in the upstream area. And then we are in the middle of an appraisal process for the upstream flowage easements, and so that's the orange shading in the upstream mitigation area there. Then the next page gives a summary of the environmental monitoring easements. This is for monitoring of biotic and geomorphic conditions. You might be familiar, the Corps is working to do that monitoring program as part of their adaptive management approach. And those appraisals have been completed. Earlier this week, we held some neighborhood meetings with property owners on the North Dakota side. Those were virtual meetings. And early next week, we'll be doing the same for the Minnesota property owners, trying to make sure property owners have all the information and awareness that they need to sign those easements. You can see we've got 169 of those to get approved, and we've been making progress on that in the last week or two here. The remainder of the report just drills into more detail as usual. You can see the budget indications there. One thing I do want to point out, you'll see on the channel, you'll notice we've spent more than we budgeted, but keep in mind we have roughly $16 million of asset lands that are counted in the spent number. And so I know that later on in the agenda, we have a further discussion on asset policy. As I mentioned earlier, we are working on acquisitions for the Red River control structure and the Drain 27 project. We're making some progress on some of the eminent domain actions. And then in the upstream area, we have quite a bit of appraisal activity going on with Crown appraisals for the flow easements. So with that, I would stand for any questions if you have any.
Questions for Eric? Yeah, Eric, we haven't talked about cemeteries for quite some time, and I know with Plan B that there was considerable change to impacted areas, but maybe you could just tell us where we're at there.
I can give a brief overview. I might ask Joel or Chris Bakkegaard to chime in as well. As you mentioned, the settlement agreement did provide some requirements that the Diversion Authority work with each of the impacted cemeteries to come up with a solution customized to each cemetery. It's my understanding there's been some meetings with one of those cemeteries, the Clara Cemetery in Minnesota, which is the most impacted. And there's some progress being made on conceptual solutions at this point. And so I think that's kind of a framework of where we're at, but Joel or Chris, if they're on, if they wanted to add any more details.
Yeah, thank you, Eric, and thank you, Chairwoman Sherling. Yes, we have created an action plan for the affected cemeteries. And Eric's correct. Mr. Bakkegaard and I have both engaged the Clara Cemetery Board, and we've created a path forward with them to provide a conceptual design that meets their needs and their concerns. We still have to reach out to a few of the other impacted cemeteries, but none of them are as impacted as Clara. The rest are fairly minor impacts, very, I don't want to say minimal, but minor, flooding impacts under the 100-year event that really, can be cured with what appears to be minimal impact type solutions. So we do Mr. Bakkegaard and I will continue to engage with the different cemetery boards and then utilize our consulting engineers to ultimately design and implement acceptable measures that meet the concerns of each of the individual cemetery committees and boards.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Mongeau.
Thank you. Joel, since we no longer have been having frequent meetings with that cemetery committee, I don't know if it's dissolved or what, but maybe it would be worthwhile having an update to this board, since we're the lands committee, as to what those mitigation efforts will be, what those acceptable, how you're going to deal with that. I think it's important that I appreciate that Commissioner Sherling brought that up. I think it's really important that we are aware of what will be happening to mitigate.
Great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can give a brief update on the Clara Cemetery. We did meet with their board, and their preference would be to implement a ring levee around the cemetery, utilizing the two township roads that are directly adjacent on 2 of the 4 sides of the cemetery. We had conceptually come up with that alternative a number of years ago. So we are cleaning it up with some discussions with the cemetery board about functionality and ingress egress into the cemetery. And we will be bringing that concept back to the cemetery board for approval prior to moving forward with implementing that project. So that's the furthest one along. Really, the other cemetery committees and boards haven't been engaged to the same extent that we have with the Clara Cemetery. It's been difficult finding folks for some of the smaller cemeteries on the North Dakota side that are able to meet and finding a location. So we continue to work on that, but it is our responsibility under the settlement agreement, and we do intend to engage as the quickest we can to find some resolution to those issues.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I may have a follow-up if I may.
Sure.
Thank you. Has our Clay County engineer been part of the discussions? If you're talking about township roads, I know that we do maintenance on that road. Is it something that Dave has been a part of?
No, it has not at this point. So
I would encourage you to please make sure that he's a part of those discussions.
absolutely.
And maybe, Joel, we could just add that to our monthly agenda for lands, just a placeholder, so you can, if there's anything new that you can update us, especially as you continue to talk to these different cemetery boards. I think that's, to Commissioner Monjo's point, that's very important. We as board members often get comments from the public, and they're often, at least I get rumors, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So it would be great to keep us informed, so I can knowledgeably respond to inquiries, especially when it comes to such sensitive issues as cemeteries. And I think I saw Nathan's hand go up.
Yeah, that was a mistake. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Anyone else?
Say, Mary and Joe, I might just add, and Joe, we can certainly talk more about this, but there's several mitigation related items in the settlement agreement that people are working on pieces and parts of that. And so I know cemeteries is certainly a I don't know, lively topic. Is that too much of a pun? But there are several land mitigation topics that the committee here may want to have a discussion on or an awareness of. And so if you're willing, I think perhaps rather than focusing on cemeteries, maybe we could broaden that and have a standing item on settlement mitigation matters. And, we can provide an update on a regular basis for the committee.
That would be great. So, and then back to Commissioner Monjo's point about the cemetery committee. We never actually put one together, but we were kind of in the process of putting one together years ago. And I know there were some very highly trained folks from the Corps that were engaged in it, and a lot of different people. Are we going to need that now, or is, because of the settlement, that's just kind of gone to the wane side, and we're just dealing individually with each cemetery board? Is that how I'm understanding it?
Yeah, Madam Chair, that is how we intended to implement the provisions within the settlement agreement. The other cemetery, there's two other cemeteries in Minnesota. One is more of a family cemetery, with a few graves. The other is down by Wolverton that has very, very minor impacts, just in a corner of the cemetery that does not contain graves. The cemeteries in North Dakota are kind of in the same situation. They're not impacted by any large amounts of water that could be mitigated through some berming, drainage, those sorts of things. So I think we all understand and know what the technical solution is. It's ensuring that technical solution is palatable with the cemetery boards. The Clara Cemetery Board has indicated that they are palatable with the solution that we have proposed, and they are willing to continue to work with us. So as far as policy guidance is concerned from a committee, I don't necessarily see much work for that committee on that policy side. However, I'll leave it up to this committee to determine if we need a subcommittee for the lands.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? If not, then we will move on. Thank you very much, Eric. Anything else from you, Eric?
No, but I guess the next topic is related to the excess policy. And so I think Martin will take the lead on that, and I'm happy to support as necessary.
Thank you. Martin, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. A revised draft has been forwarded to all the members of the committee and also circulated to TAG. And recently I circulated a red line strikeout of that draft as well for edification. Madam Chair, at your pleasure, we can either review that red line strikeout, we can review the clean, or just take questions because there were fairly minor and straightforward changes to the draft from last meeting.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to just thank everyone that has participated in this process, and I think we've come up with a good policy that will meet the needs going forward, and it's a flexible policy. So because not every piece of land is going to fit neatly into it, but it does give us some flexibility to address situations that may come up. But I think some of the concerns that the city of Fargo and Moorhead had, I think we've taken care of that. And any other issues that came up last time, I think they really were indeed just a couple of minor things that we seem to have gotten answers to, and Martin, you responded to those. So I guess I don't know that we need to go through this whole thing again. If we have questions or concerns, or if any board members want to jump in, I know the city of Fargo, I think you're satisfied with this at this point?
Madam Chair, Bruce Grubb here, and I don't mean to speak over Commissioner Preston or Nathan Borboom, but we did meet and review the current draft and wanted to offer up a thanks as well. We did pay particular attention to sections 1 and 4 that got to the urban versus rural, and appreciated the language there. But section 5 as well, dealing with the manner of disposal of excess land. We appreciate the changes there too. We met as a team and reviewed this, and think that we can live with this. And so thanks to everybody for several iterations of this along the way. But from the city of Fargo's perspective, it's my understanding that we will support it.
Thank you. And I know in visiting with the Cass County engineer, he felt like this would satisfy the needs in rural Cass County as well. Moorhead, Clay County, do you have anything you'd like to add? Any questions? Or a motion? And remember, this is a motion to the DA for a recommendation.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is Chuck. No comments, just really good work. And I like the incorporations we made from the last meeting. So just to add that, Moorhead has no problem with this.
No, I appreciate that input.
Madam Chair, this is Roger.
Yes, Roger.
I would make the motion to recommend this to the Diversion Authority as a document to dispose of unneeded land.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Commissioner Breitling.
I would second Mr. Olson's motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Sherling,
Yes.
Mayor Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Grubb,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Borboom,
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Yes.
Mr. Olson,
Yes.
Mr. Breitling,
Yes.
Ms. Maggio,
Yes.
Mrs. Preston,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes.
That is everyone.
And the motion carries. Again, a big thank you to everyone that put in the extra effort on this project, including Martin and Eric and Mr. Shockley behind the scenes, always behind the scenes working diligently and making sure that we don't stumble. Let's move on then to item number 6, committee update for the DA board. Do you have anything else there, Eric or Joel? Or
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add, Commissioner, is what's in your packet is just a one-page summary of kind of a snapshot of what we've been working on as a committee, that you have, I guess, the freedom to use this as you wish, but my intention was you might be able to share this with the board tomorrow as part of your committee updates.
I will do that.
Right.
And the Cass County Joint Water Resource District update.
Yep, this is Roger.
What you got for us, Roger?
Well, as you see, there's been activity. Eric gave a nice update to the land and what's been going on. There's really no issues from the Cass County Joint Board at this time, so that'll end my report.
So, Roger, do you feel like we have the policies in place to give your board guidance moving forward? This excess lands policy was certainly an important one that started to bubble up. Are there any other things that you feel we should be addressing as a committee to make sure that you've got the tools you need to move forward?
Well, no, I don't think so. I just want to make sure that as we go out and talk to the landowners about flowage easements, that they totally understand what's being asked of them, and that their questions are answered appropriately. And that will be done through the land agents. So we make sure that they understand how we feel, and but if there's anything that the land committee would like to or bring up or hear anything, please let us know so that we can correct it. And we want to make this as painless as we can, and I know that's not possible, but we certainly will do our best through our land agents, and I don't know if I know right now there's some meetings going on with for the biogeo monitoring, and I don't know if it would be helpful to also do the same thing for the flowage easements. That would be a large undertaking, but maybe it would answer a lot of questions and make things flow a little better. So we'll continue to explore that.
So years ago, and maybe it wasn't so many years ago, but we talked about kind of, just having an example farmstead. I think that, and go through the whole process and see what they would end up with for compensation. I think that it's the threat of the unknown that bothers people. And so, what is that flowage easement going to be worth? When are we going to be able to give that information to landowners so that they get at least a general idea of where they're going to be at?
Well, Eric, maybe you could answer that.
Yeah, you bet. Good conversation here. So a couple of things on the flowage easement side. As you may recall, we did approve a contract with Crown Appraisals back in, I can't remember if it was December or January, but for the phase 2 flowage easement study. And so they've been getting off the ground. We did have a kickoff meeting with them probably a month or so ago. They've started to have some discussions with property owners, and our land agents are having lots of conversations with property owners as well. One of the things that Crown has suggested that they'd like to do is really a way to drive a consistent message to all the property owners and sort of handle the volume of conversations, is put together a video explaining what their appraisal process is and some background information related to that. Much of this is foundational information that was part of the phase 1 study from a couple of years ago. And so anyway, the Crown team has drafted a script for that. We've been working with Jennifer and Martin and John and Chris McShane and others here on my team are reviewing that script. We've got another meeting set up with Crown next week, and we're working to advance that development of this video. And so it's going through all the review chains and whatnot right now. But there is a bubbling up of activity and communications related to flowage easements. We hear a lot of the same questions. I think we're helping answer many of those questions with some of the materials that we've provided. I think the video will be another mechanism in that path. And then related to all that, we know that flowage easements are one of the questions out there, but we also hear things about crop insurance, debris cleanup, and all the things that have been discussed and are part of the settlement agreement and or part of our mitigation plan. And so along with the flowage easements, we've been framing out some concepts to do some additional neighborhood type meetings, probably in the mid-summer time frame, when maybe there's a chance that the farm community has a little bit of a lull in their activity, and then recognize that the appraisal work won't be done until fall or late fall. And so we anticipate having another round of neighborhood type meetings probably in the late fall through the winter time frame. And so it's on our radar. We're planning in that direction. Obviously we wish we had all the answers in front of us right now, but this appraisal assignment is going to take some time. And so I think that affords us the ability to really frame out how we need to communicate that information in that detail with the property owners. So hopefully that gives you a snapshot. I can certainly go into more of those details. I guess I do anticipate as that gets firmed up, we would like to bring that forward to the committee, at least at a minimum, for your awareness about how we're planning to present information. But I think the BioGeo effort really in some ways was an opportunity for us to kick the tires and learn what works well and what doesn't work well. And now we have an opportunity to sort of replicate the things that worked well and sort of improve upon things that maybe didn't work as well as we wanted them to. So anyway, that was a lot to throw at you, but that's some.
Thank you. Well, communication certainly is a key, and that's not this committee's job, but if there's anything that we should be working on ahead of time, policy-wise, that you can think of, please give us a heads up so we can have the time to formulate them, because as you can see, sometimes something that seems simple and straightforward ends up, taking a little longer winding road. So appreciate that. Anything else, Roger?
Nothing else. Thank you.
Okay, then we have the Minnesota JPA, Clay County.
Thanks, Mary. This is Kevin. Our meeting, of course, was a month ago, and I didn't keep my notes handy that long, but in recollecting to what went on a month ago, I believe we had 5 or 6 different land acquisition appraisals that were approved by the MCC JPA. We had more discussion about the BioGeo needs there. Tomorrow we do meet again, and we're going to get an update on the BioGeo monitoring program, and also I believe Eric is going to update us on the property owner meetings. I think they've been held in Cass County, and I think they're coming up shortly in Clay County. We do have a farmland lease agreement that we're going to be looking at tomorrow. One appraisal, and then we're going to be looking at an amendment from Crown Appraisals as well. And we have been discussing the needs for lands regarding the Red River control structure, so on the Minnesota side. So we're active and busy, and so far things are progressing.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Maggio.
Thank you. I believe we also at that meeting there was a couple that was willing to make some negotiations on that their properties. So we did kind of discuss what that would be and then recommend that to the diversion authority. And then also talked about the Clay County farmland leases that were outstanding. So that concluded the report.
Great. Thank you for that input. Anything else to add, Eric?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, great. Well, we're ahead of time here. Does anybody have any other business? Eric, what do you see in the coming months that this group is going to be working on?
I'm glad that you guys brought up the cemetery mitigation, and to the extent that that relates to settlement issues. There's been background work going on, of course, and now that the settlement agreement got final ink on it last month, I think we have, we're turning attentions towards, updating the mitigation plan and a few of those sort of items. So I don't, as Joel mentioned, I don't anticipate right now a whole lot of policy related items, but nonetheless, there's a bunch of activity happening, and I think it's probably a duty that we have to keep this committee up to speed on, what are those activities. So I guess at this point, I see it more as maybe report outs for the next, meeting month or so. So yeah, that'd be my thoughts.
Roger, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Mary, maybe a little bit off lands, but I was asked in the settlement agreement with the upstream group, is the Kindred School Board going to realize anything out of that agreement? Do you know?
Well, I think Mr. Shockley has that answer. Please
So,
go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The settlement agreement between Buffalo Red Watershed District, the Wilkin-Richland County JPA, City of Comstock, City Wolverton, and the Diversion Authority provided for the Wilkin-Richland County JPA to manage a relief fund. As part of that agreement, it specified that the relief fund would be split up among various political subdivisions, one of which was the Kindred School District. I believe that Wilkin-Richland JPA is reaching out to the Kindred School District regarding distribution of that relief fund, but that's going to be between the Kindred School District and Wilkin-Richland County JPA. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, John. It does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, John. Anyone else? Any other business? Mayor Mahoney.
Just to Roger's question, John, I think they also were thinking that the Rich and Welkin group might help out in economic development in with Kindred to also subly help out the school district. So there's a variety of different things, Roger, you might hear that are going on in Kindred. And the reason we have this settlement is it's no longer an issue that we have to do, right, John? It's something that the board has to do down there. So how they go after the money, we said that is going to be, and Chad was very strong on how it was going to be managed, but it is really their responsibility. And John would be able to give us public reports on what it eventually goes to. But they had some quote economic development in there too.
But then there is also restrictions on how that money can be spent also. Is that correct, John?
That is correct. You are correct, and Mayor Mahoney is correct. There is restrictions on how the funds can be spent. The funds have to be dispersed pursuant to a distribution agreement that has a number of conditions that are attached to it, that they have to be used consistent with the settlement agreement between the Diversion Authority and the upstream group.
Anybody else have any questions? We've got the experts with us now. If anybody has a question, a few extra minutes, if this committee needs any clarification on something. If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Campbell moves.
Mojo second.
Okay. Thank you all. We are adjourned.
Mary, I see Dwayne has got his hand up. I don't
Oh,
know.
Dwayne, did you have something?
It's not of real importance, but myself, Mr. Peterson from Horace, Chris McShane, and a gentleman who's also serves on the joint board were not able to access the program that was ongoing until Mr. McShane emailed us a bunch of information where we had to go to yet another. I'm curious as to why that took place.
Are you speaking of getting on this call?
Yes.
I wonder if we had a problem. I don't know why that would be, but I was sitting in a room by myself a while ago as well. I'm sorry that happened. We'll have Joel and Don check that out, and yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
We should
and
at least have another, if people don't have somebody they can text or a resource that can help them at the last minute, because as the chair, I have no idea if somebody's out there just waiting to knocking and can't get in.
Right.
So
It seems like there's no consistency there either, because we QC'd with 5 people when I sent the information out last Friday. I went through Joel's, went through Jennifer's. Although I had to log out and go back in twice on Joel's today. So I don't know if there's connectivity issues or if there's gremlins in the line somewhere. I'm not sure, because we don't have any consistency. It's not just Mary or it's not just Dwayne, it's hit and miss.
Yeah, say this is Eric. Chris had emailed me for the right link, and I had shared that with Chris right at the meeting time. It appears to me that there's a meeting link for the land committee that gets sent out, but there's also a meeting link for the outreach committee. And as I understand it, the outreach committee meeting should be the one that's used, because that link goes the full 3 hours for all 3 committees. So to the extent.
Right, that's correct.
So can you pull back that land one and just get it off everybody's calendars? And
Well, that should be the same. Let me
but
do
it
some
wasn't.
checking.
That's the one that I clicked on. I clicked on my land connection to sit in on public outreach this afternoon, and that's the one that I couldn't get into until I emailed you. So
Okay.
why don't we cancel all of the land ones and send out new ones?
Well, it will be different next month. These were all sent. Once a Teams meeting is out there, it remains out there. You can try and override it. It will not override it. I just learned that about a month ago. So after this go round, we should be okay, because I'm going to try a different scheduling routine. And like I said, I'm going to use you as a guinea pig and make sure maybe more of the folks that are on the outside, like maybe Rick and Chad as well, and just see if we can make it work that way.
Okay. Well, let's like I said, it'd be great if there was just another number to text if somebody's having a problem getting right at the beginning of the meeting.
Right. If we had a support person to be able to get folks on, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thank you for that.
You can go grab a cup of coffee before finance. Thanks, everybody.